Superhero TV and movies are everywhere these days, and fans have been quickly getting tired of them. It's not just the overpowered protagonist.
They'll come for you. I have an army. We have a hope.
With the do no wrong lore, or the story arcs and plot buildup that eerily just feels like a stretched out Power Rangers episode.
Dormammu, I come to bargain.
You've come to die.
But the entire genre is in dire need of massive market correction after a decade of complete and utter dominance.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
But that's where Invincible comes into the picture, as I and just about everyone in the country recognize how remarkable the show is. After 3 culture-defining seasons, allowing it to effortlessly stand out in an oversaturated market.
In any case, you know this, you call yourself Lord of Thunder, God of Thunder. I've never met this man in my life. He's my brother.
Between its brutal action and fight scenes, complex emotional arcs,
Okay, just tell her how you feel. Easy. Oh, God, how am I more nervous about this than fighting aliens?
Are you gonna hover out there all day talking to yourself or come in?
truly
I'm trying
great
to hold
character
back. I don't want to hurt him too
development,
much. I think he's just a normal dude.
Normal this.
Yeah, totally normal.
not to mention its continued striking animation style, which does resemble many of the better animated MCU series from the past decades.
And a good morning to you, J. Jonah Loudmouth. It's not easy learning the ropes by yourself. Let's face it.
Though with ever more life in each pixel. Invincible has quickly forced the hand of every major superhero production studios and exemplified a legitimate strat to successfully mitigate the effects of superhero fatigue in an ever-saturated genre.
Hey, I need you to cause a distraction.
We're all gonna die! We're the spaceship!
With its 4th highly anticipated season on the horizon set to release next week on the 18th of March.
You could do better than
And a
that.
live-action Invincible movie which has been in development by Universal Pictures and Skybound Entertainment since 2017. By the way, it's 4 years before the first season ever even premiered.
You were given orders. You were given time. You were given more leeway than
With
most.
Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg
And I'm Evan Goldberg.
attached to write and direct, and millions of fans eagerly awaiting the premiere of its 4th season, we might just be getting started with this inevitable Invincible Universe.
Why the hell is he here? And why
Mark Grayson, the show's debatably kindest and most moral protagonist, having gone through 3 seasons of constant trauma and hardships, it's evident his endurance has started taking its toll. So there's no doubt in my mind Robert Kirkman and the cast of Invincible will inevitably re-elevate the superhero genre once more with the premiere next Wednesday. After this recent slew of mediocre films and Disney Plus series from Marvel and DC, back-to-back-to-back letdowns has led to audience apathy and the aforementioned superhero fatigue, where audiences have been unreluctantly less excited for new releases. Many films feel similar in structure, character arcs, and CGI-heavy formulaic endings, causing viewer disinterest. These past few years, superhero movies are no longer considered special, must-see cultural moments like they once did the decade before. Now viewed as excessive, with the vast number of entries in the market today, modern audiences are increasingly cynical about the idealized black and white morality often featured in superhero narratives, preferring complex anti-hero or more grounded stories like our Invincible or Amazon Prime's other Emmy Award-winning superhero show, The Boys. Both providing exactly what fans have been feeding to see for years now. Films that used to be guaranteed hits out of the MCU or DCU are now struggling. As seen with the Marvels or Ant-Man Quantumania, both barely breaking even, with some industry insiders equating these minimal, supposed $88,000 profits to tax credits.
You're an interesting man. Scott Lang.
I don't know who you are.
Signaling to not only fans, but everyone involved that the brand name alone is no longer enough to drive ticket sales. Unless you're Robert Downey Jr. or Deadpool and Wolverine. Both unequivocally outliers.
If they can fix your world, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get out of here? Some rubbing alcohol shots? Maybe a wiper fluid chaser?
What did you say?
So when you get back, what's the first thing you're going to do?
I mean, before that.
If they can fix your world?
Even without prior knowledge on the genre, there's no argument that what makes Invincible special are the characters. The heroes, villains, side cameos, and any and all things in between each have enviable levels of depth that make them cynically human. Though Mark and the rest of Invincible's superheroes are honorable and noble, Season 3 has made a great point regarding the problems they cause. Using their powers for the greater good is extremely admirable, especially when it comes to facing off against some of the show's biggest villains, who oftentimes are far stronger than Earth's best fighters. Though, despite their bravery and sacrifice, these battles don't come without collateral damage. Take the buildings and vehicles that come in the way of saving the world. Gone. The innocent civilians and bystanders that happen to be just a bit too close. Dunzo. In Season 3, many of the fights end in civilian casualties, which our protagonists become increasingly numb to. As we saw with the very first season's Chicago tragedy, being brought up again in All I Can Say is I'm Sorry. Powerplex mentioned how Mark never actually faced tribulation for his involvement, and though the audience is fully aware of his innocence, the public in the show does not. Just as it can be argued that our heroes can do more good for the world without any restrictions on what they can or can't do, the same can be argued their lack of accountability is a serious problem.
I need to save them.
No. Maybe this time you'll learn.
Season 3 repeatedly highlighted this. Even the most moral heroes still have their own agendas, and are far from their insinuated perfection to the public. So in some ways, the showrunners are not so subtly making the point for having them adhere to at least some sort of legal guidelines. But it's not just the characters themselves, as the heroes of the MCU and DCU have been enthralled within culture since the late 1930s, and garner far more precedence than our new age band of superhumans. But what Invincible lacks in cultural primacy, they more than make up for in realism. Especially in Season 3, what makes the story so special are the morally gray arcs and relationship beginning to boil. Even if fans were able to sense this foreshadowing of moral complexity starting from the pilot, the destructive relationship growing between Walton Goggins, Cecil Stedman...
Is it? You killed Angstrom Levy? Should I lock you up too? Throw away the key?
You know that was different.
A man's still dead because of you.
And I think about it every single day. But he almost killed my mom and brother.
Exactly. You were trying to save lives, which is what I'm trying to do. So how about you extend me the same privilege and go home?
And Stephen Grant's Invincible illustrates this point.
This was all you? Bringing me here?
Yes.
Thraxans told me that they needed my help.
They do need your help.
Why?
It's complicated. Come with me and...
Now why would you lie to me again?
At the end of the day, Cecil is a good man. And while Mark would argue not a good person, he fully accepts that, being something that our lead struggles to accept. Even more so after the revelations of his habit for rehabilitating captured villains, the irony is not lost on me that a perfect parallel for Cecil would be J.K. Simmons' Omni-Man. During the prologue and most of the first season, Nolan does whatever it takes to further his Viltrum empire, even decimating a planet through infiltration and weakening of its dominant civilization from within. Oh yeah, and his child is there too. Great father. Towards the end of the season, Nolan continues his attempt at convincing Mark to see things his way, to understand the sacrifices needed for the greater good of Viltrum, which including the massacring of the Guardians of the Globe. How classy. The key difference between Cecil and Nolan are that the latter has a family to care for, leading him to eventually abandon not only his post, but his personal conventions. There are just so many instances of seemingly coincidental aspects littered throughout the past season and the prior two, the intention of which becomes blatantly obvious after a second run-through. After hundreds of films and TV shows, audiences feel exhausted by the sheer volume of content in the superhero genre, not to mention the homework required to follow the ever-complex, interconnected cinematic universes of our big two, paving a way for our invigorated novel creators, bringing fresh spins to an ever-saturated market. In some ways, our big two studios may have long saw the warning signs for market correction. As for many fans, the Marvel Cinematic Universe reached an organic and satisfying conclusion with Avengers Endgame in 2019. Attempting to re-engage audiences with new, less familiar characters after such a climactic peak has proven difficult even for the likes of Disney. Now coined the Endgame effect via online discourse, Marvel movies began experiencing a noticeable decline in consistent box office dominance and critical reception quickly following the release. After a 2-year hiatus, Eternals in 2021 became the first MCU film to receive a rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes, breaking a decade-long streak for critical success. Though there were definitely standout successes like Spider-Man No Way Home and Shang-Chi, both overperforming their intended box office sales.
Yes, you are.
These were evidently anomalies as 2023 saw the release of the aforementioned Ant-Man Quantumania, struggling to reach its break-even point, and the Marvels setting a record as the lowest grossing MCU film of all time. Even high-profile reboots like Pedro Pascal's The Fantastic Four in 2025 failed to match the box office heights of earlier, less hyped movies.
Marvel Studios invite you to the cinematic event of the year with everything from action.
The DC Cinematic Universe has faced similar bouts as the last run of films from 2020 to 2023 were largely considered commercial and critical flops. Failing to achieve consistent success, movies like Shazam! Fury of the Gods,
You guys ready?
The Flash,
Nice suits. Looking good, Flash.
Well, I think
You are welcome.
and Blue Beetle all underperforming even with proper pre-release promotion. With poor box office results driven by low audience enthusiasm and uncertainty regarding the franchise's reboot, they hunker down to figure out a way out of their self-created slump. There's just no way that with the recent rise of complex and anti-hero centered stories dominating screens and continuing to make waves out of Amazon Prime, Invincible and The Boys, both critically acclaimed for its new spins on the age-old genre, that leads at Marvel and DC didn't take notice and begin pushing its filmmakers for more thought-provoking plots. Scrapping their DC Extended Universe entirely, they hired on James Gunn to create a new DC universe starting with Superman 2025.
I thought we might do an interview.
Featuring a significant twist on the classic superhero tropes and previous Superman movies, fundamentally challenging the character's legacy and relationships with his Kryptonian parents, who revealed they didn't send him to Earth merely to save him, but to act as a conqueror to rule humanity. Sounds a little familiar to the prologue of Invincible.
Who are you?
This pivot turning the traditional Last Son of Krypton story on its head led to the movie being a relative success with over $615 million worldwide, making it a stronger performer than its 2023 predecessors. On the Marvel side of things, after the rapid release of Disney Plus shows, think Secret Invasion and She-Hulk.
Being a Hulk asks surveillance.
This content overload is even cited by Disney CEO Bob Iger as having diluted focus and attention. Rushed production lines led to widespread criticism of declining CGI quality in recent phases, to where most post-Endgame projects have often felt disconnected and a lack of clear narrative, desperately needing a unified Infinity Stones buildup that drove the first 3 phases to Hollywood royalty. They too are shifting from the traditional hero versus villain formula, though seeing as the MCU has an ever-abundant catalog which at one point or another have already tried a complete flip of origin stories. Therefore, Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, outside of some questionable social media moments from Kevin Feige, focuses on a complex multiverse narrative centered on Dr. Doom, played by yours truly, Robert Downey Jr.
Same task. What can I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
Saving reality by merging it into Battleworld, introduced all the way back in 1984 with the release of the original Marvel superhero Secret Wars. This pivot moves away from the previously planned Kang-centric storyline.
Yeah, he stole something from me.
Do not speak when I am in the room. Gotta say, Janet was a lot more.
Replacing a linear Thanos-style build-up with a more chaotic, high-stakes collision of universes.
Ben, Yancey Street, between Broome and Grand.
Rather than a straightforward single-universe threat, known by MCU fans, the focus is now on the collapse of the multiverse, where RDJ presents a more nuanced villain who believes his actions are necessary. Director Joe Russo assures this represents a new beginning, focused on building a new altered MCU. Though fans are still left in the dark for what's after Secret Wars, or whether it'll even be palpable. Feige reiterated Endgame literally was about endings. Secret Wars is about beginnings. In an industry where the same plot cycle has dominated for almost 100 years now, you either have to follow the lead of novel producers in writing fresh stories, or bring back classics from the past. Why not both?
What is it?
A beacon.
We're sending a message.
A message to where?
I'm so sorry, I have to deal with this. You can get my number from Bruce. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, I don't have her number. She does this a lot. Guys, stay safe. Welcome to the circus.
SHIELD and Hydra, Justice League and the SSSV, Avengers and Thanos. This repeated model has been used countlessly in not only movie releases, but TV from our big two in the superhero genre.
Wow! Jesus, what the hell, man?
Still in control, no overwhelming feelings of rage.
No, a normal amount of rage!
You do revert back to Gen 4 when you sleep.
Competitors have pinpointed the areas of weakness, and with the release of its 4th season swiftly approaching, rather than being a one-dimensional story of good versus evil, Invincible Season 3 has questioned its main character's morality. The show's brutality and sense of realism are what help it stand out so much in an overcapacity market. When they show each character's perspectives on why they protect people and their motivations behind each action, it adds a layer of intimacy to stories like Mark vs. Cecil, creating an interesting narrative that's easy to understand and to root for both.
We have these things called doors that normal people use all the time. You should try them.
We also have these things called Viltrumites. You should try winning a fight against them sometime.
Okay, too soon, Cecil. Also, how much does it cost every time you, teleport? Isn't that taxpayer money?
Do you know the gross economic output of Liechtenstein?
Not even a little.
More than that.
Okay, well, that seems really irresponsible.
Plot twists feel organic even as the plot thickens when the Invincibles attack.
I don't get to take a night off.
Viewers have been urged to side with Mark and distrust many of Cecil's intentions, but when Earth is devastated and most of the planet's heroes are killed, the Reaniman and Cecil's anti-Viltrumite weapons become an essential backbone in the planet's defense.
Don't make me put you in that category, Mark.
All of Cecil's paranoia are proven to be bloody right, except for his paranoia for Mark, who ends up fighting the other Invincibles.
But trauma like that breaks people.
When push comes to shove, Mark and Cecil are both right. Yet they're still both wrong. They both have a point, and while Mark is morally in the right, Cecil is doing what he knows is necessary, despite his hatred for having to do so. Many other IPs have attempted to walk this moral line, but it's rare for one to do it so well. Cecil feels dirty. He's done some horrible things, but many times for the right reasons. He shares hands with the devil every single day so that the rest of humanity can sleep soundly at night.
Pupils dilated, heart rate elevated. He's an alien, so we don't know his norms. But if he were a human, he'd be lying.
Yeah, no
never knowing the atrocities that have been made to protect them. Invincible is the dark, noir superhero universe that the DCU and Zack Snyder have been trying to reignite. Many critics and fans argue DC and Marvel have actually been facing bad movie fatigue rather than an aversion to the entirety of the genre. The big two studios have been accused of prioritizing quantity over quality, leading to faceless assembly line blockbusters with mediocre scripts and uninspired CGI time and time again. Even if I, along with the rest of us, remain hopeful for what's to come with Doomsday and after, modern audiences are increasingly cynical about the binary morality that traditional superheroes represent. Morally complex deconstructions like The Boys or Invincible often resonate more with today's viewers than classic idealistic heroes from the past. Success used to be bolstered by massive returns in international markets, but they've largely diminished, making the 1 billion hit much harder to achieve in recent times. The 2023 Writers Guild and actors strikes halted production on many key titles, pushing release dates back and forcing studios to reevaluate their long-term strategy. As newer hits like Invincible masterfully balance uncomfortably human characters, true gray storylines, brutally impactful violence, and beautifully real connections to create stories that don't feel like any old project. In a genre that has faced heavy commercialization, Invincible is a special series with a strong sense of identity that deserves far more recognition and mainstream spotlight than it already has garnered. The show constantly juggles its dozens of characters through their own unique inner struggles. Take Adam Eve, whose main arc revolves around her struggling with her own identity, striking out on her own and defining herself as an individual and as a hero, while also having to face the consequences of thoughtlessly using her powers. Mark's refusing to give Darkwing or Sinclair a second chance while fighting alongside his father exemplifies this dilemma perfectly.
Sorry, Mark.
Despite his best intentions, Invincible still has personal bias. Or even Cecil, who above all else is depicted as a realist, a man willing to do just about anything in order to protect the people of his country, by any means necessary. Even before this transformed into the major plot point in this past season, Cecil, all the way back in season 1, insisted on doing what's necessary. He even said to Damian that he'll probably be going to hell. Literally. All for the sake of protecting the planet. And hopefully, this will be the kick Marvel and DC needed to restart their epic run from the last decade. Well, just the first. While the golden age of guaranteed billion-dollar hits may be over, for now, maybe, the genre is expected to evolve into a leaner, more selective format focused on high-quality, standalone stories rather than endless multi-story building blocks. Or, you know, just a dopamine-driven compilation of our biggest stars. Whichever one comes first. Will inevitably re-evaluate, re-elevate our Invincible or Crikey!
This is proof punch.
Crikey! Jesus Christ, so aggressive. I know that it's difficult. I'm stacking this paper as sort of a visual. I blow the residual and fuck on your bitch like it's part of my ritual. Pardon the visual, but money will give me a heart on is typical. I want it in physical. $1 million, I count them at intervals. Without it, I'm miserable. Don't want to fall out, so I'm all in my bag. I think I got it like it's biblical. I know it's gonna solve every problem I have. I bought on a principle. Remember the teacher was all in my ass. Now look all in the pitiful. And all of a sudden, I'm so good at math. Alright.